Hi there everyone, welcome to my channel. If you are new here, welcome. If you are a returning subscriber, thank you so much for coming back. For those who do not know me, I am Harlo, your academic big sister, and welcome to my little corner of the internet. So as you have seen from the title of the video, we are going to be discussing how I got a distinction in accounting. Without wasting any more time, let's get straight into the video. But before we start, I want you to understand that the tips that I am sharing are the tips that worked for me. They might not necessarily work for you, but I think you can try to consider some of them depending on how you learn and where you think you're making mistakes. So the first tip is, as much as accounting, high school accounting can be a very numerical subject, I did write notes. I wrote notes, like for each and every topic I would have introductory notes where I would write down what we are going to do in the topic, or just write down the basic theory behind the topic. For example, fixed assets. Fixed assets can be a very numerical topic where you just calculate. There isn't much theory, but then something I'll do is just have, even if it's a paragraph that introduces the topic, and then also write maybe the ledgers that I'm going to be doing in the topic. Tip number 2, you get it all the time. Practice. But I feel like something that we don't really talk about is the how do you practice, the system behind practicing, right? So this is how I used to practice. The first thing is I would do exam type questions. I feel like for most of the subjects, mathematics, life sciences, and especially life sciences, mathematics, life sciences, and physical sciences, I used to do a lot of exam type questions. Exam type questions are the ones that you are likely going to get in your exam. You're gonna get that question in your test. So I think that sometimes the textbooks have very good questions, but they're not really the type of questions. They can help you when you're practicing. They're really good questions to practice with, because you're likely not that you're likely gonna get it in the exam, but I think it trains your thought process, especially if it's a subject where you have to do things step by step. I think they can be good questions, but I personally preferred exam type questions. But for accounting, I feel like, I don't remember the name of the textbook that we used to use. I think it was something not ACE accounting, but the questions in that textbook, as much as they were not necessarily exam type questions, but I feel like they did do a good job in terms of training me for the exam type questions. So because accounting, okay, you're given a transaction. They say that rent started in June, and then the reporting period was the 1st of March. Okay, I think the questions did a pretty good job in terms of training how I approach questions, transactions, and how I try to come up with solutions. So I was not really big on doing exam type questions for accounting, but then I had to do them, especially for the theory questions. I had to understand the mark allocations, how we need to answer. Do I need to calculate for each and every theory question? When do I calculate? And how do I just approach questions in general? So I highly recommend that you do exam type questions. Another approach that I used to do that helped with my exam technique was setting a timer. So if I'm practicing a paper that is 3 hours long, then I'm going to sit down for 3 hours, set a timer for 3 hours, and try to complete the whole question paper in 3 hours. I feel like time management can be a very scary thing in accounting, in high school, like, okay, even in uni accounting, but time management can be a little bit tricky because I genuinely feel like we're not given enough time compared to all the other subjects. So I had to master time management because I didn't want to be in a situation where I am leaving the exam room and I haven't completed the question paper. Now let's talk about marking. So if you are attempting a question, after attempting it, you need to mark. Be as strict as possible. Write down all your mistakes. Try to understand why you made mistakes. And if you feel like you do not get how you made a mistake, then go and consult, go and ask your teacher. So this is the question that I had, this is how I answered it, this is how it's answered on the memo. What did I do wrong? Right? You do not mark, get 50 over 150 and sit and be like, I'll do better next time. No, you need to understand where your 100 marks went. You get 148 over 150 when you are practicing. You need to understand where your 2 marks went, because the aim should be 150 over 150, especially if you're at home, because you are not necessarily under pressure. You need to fill in. If it's information gaps, then you need to fill those out. One last thing with exam type questions, or your questions in general, is do not neglect the theory type questions. I know sometimes we have them if I'm given this scenario, then I'll know how to figure it out. You only know how to figure it out. Listen, you only know how to figure it out in the exam room if you have managed to figure it out when you are practicing. Literally, like, there's no figuring something out in the exam room. Just there's no figuring something out in the exam room. You figure it out on your chair at home when you are practicing, and then when you go into the exam, you have figured it out a very long time ago. So you are not going to neglect the theory type questions. You are going to understand how you answer them, and you are going to practice them, how you practice the other topics or the other calculations, right? Yes. I know I said last thing, but another thing with regards to theory type questions is I used to make a cheat sheet. So for example, we're doing the company's topic, and there's a part where you need to talk about the directors, where you need to give opinions, where you need to talk about the kind of report that they got. I would have a cheat sheet of how to, like, it's like basically just writing down the memorandum of each and every question, not necessarily every, but trying to write down a format or a template of how to answer. So it was basically I'm practicing the question, right, and then I go to the theory question. I attempt it, and then I mark it, and then on a separate paper, my cheat sheet, I would write down how to answer the question in future. So if I'm asked to give an opinion with anything regards to vet, I need to talk about maybe tax evasion. I need to just briefly write down the difference between tax avoidance and tax evasion. I need to also write down this. It's basically creating a template of how to answer the theory questions that I'm given. But before you create that, you need to understand the given scenario. You need to understand the answer itself before you even create a template. So if you are struggling with theory type questions, go consult, find help. Don't neglect them. Tip number 3, nothing too hectic, very simple. Consult with your teachers. If you are struggling with anything, go to your teacher's office and ask for help. There's nothing wrong. If you feel like you're gonna be named the teacher's pet, the teacher's order, it's fine. It's gonna be worth it at the end. It's genuinely gonna be so worth it at the end. If you are struggling with anything, you're not gonna sit because you're scared of being called a teacher's pet. No, go ask that question. It's okay to ask questions. It's okay to ask for help. You are not dumb. Go ask for help. Tip number 4, understand your mark allocations. How do you understand your mark allocations? By practicing a lot of past papers. And also, show your calculations. Don't just write the answer. Show your calculations. Show how you go to the answer. Because sometimes you get maybe you're asked to calculate depreciation, and maybe you get 50,523, and you write 50. That's the correct answer, and you write 50,532. If you have shown your calculations, you are gonna get part marks. You're gonna get marks for your calculations because your calculations are correct. You just mixed up a few digits on your final answer. So if you write your final answer only, if maybe the calculation was 3 marks, you're gonna get 0. But if you show your calculations, you're likely gonna get 2 or 2.5. So show your calculations all the time. Even if it's for theory questions, sometimes for theory questions you need to calculate, especially where you do your ratios and stuff. You need to calculate and show how you got your ratio, and then comment on that ratio. So understand your mark allocations and show your calculations. And another thing is understanding how the 3-mark system works. We used to call them chocolate marks. So these are the marks that you just, like, basically your part marks that you get for your calculations, or sometimes for using, let me say for question A, you will also calculate current ratio, right? And then question B asks you to comment on the current ratio. Using the answer that you calculated in A, you can get a mark, just a mark for using that answer that you have calculated in A, something like that. And also for reconciliations, if your balances at the end are the same, then you're going to get a mark even if they're not correct. So you need to understand how to get those free marks and aim to get all the free marks that are available in the question paper. Tip number 5, using a timeline for my calculations. I used to be a fingers girl. I would use my fingers to calculate the months, but sometimes I would miss it, especially where you have maybe, they say rent ended on the 1st of August. Sometimes I'd forget and include August. But ever since I started using a timeline, everything has been going so well. I feel like a timeline has been that one calculation tool that I've needed for most of my life. And it's so simple. You get to see all your months, and you're able to take that scenario that you're given and just show it on a line. Just a simple line. You show the scenario and you do your calculations. So if you also feel like you're struggling, especially where you have to allocate marks, where you have a transaction that happened in the middle of the year, a timeline can help you out. If you're really struggling with such transactions, try out using a timeline. On to tip number 6, ratios. The ratios are a lot you cannot memorize. I personally struggle to memorize all of them. I don't think I was even willing to memorize them, but I think the more I practiced, the more I just got used to them. And the formula sheet, your formula sheet is likely going to be the same as the one that you have. Like if you use the 2012 years, if you use your 2012 past paper, that formula sheet is likely going to be the one that you see. I don't think they'll ever change it. I once heard the rumors that they plan on changing it because I memorized the formula sheet. So I would know that the top 3 ratios are for this. So if I'm asked to calculate a certain thing, I would know where to get the ratios that are related to it. And it is also enhanced by practicing. So the more you practice, the more you familiarize yourself with that formula sheet. If you are writing notes, have that formula sheet in your notes. Number 7, know the structures of your balance sheet, your income statement, and your cash flow statement. As much as you are given the template, I feel like you need to know the structure. Knowing the structure will help you because you are not going to miss out on some line items. So sometimes you just basically forget, like literally forget that I have to record this. You see on the template that you give it that there is an extra space, but you forgot what to write there because you're not that familiar with the structure, with the income statement. So if you're practicing an income sheet, an income statement question, then fill it out. Like if you are able to get the answer book, then print it out and then practice on it. Otherwise, draw that income statement. Don't just write the numbers. Draw it when you are practicing so that you familiarize yourself with the structure. And also, while we're still on the income statements, balance sheet, the structure, and the templates, something that I feel like we tend to take a little bit for granted is the general ledgers. It is important for you to know the general ledgers. Like they can help you with your calculations. I never really used them for calculations, but I just made sure that I understand how to use them. But I didn't like using them because I felt like they were too much admin. I have to calculate all the other things when I can just maybe use a different method. But if you were to corner me and ask me to use the T account or your general ledger to calculate something, I'd be able to do it. So understand your T account, know how to draw it, not draw it, but know how to use it for calculations, know how to just know where what goes. For your hiker, know how you dispose it, especially for disposals. I think it's so important. For your fixed assets, your T accounts are going to help you a lot. Know your T accounts and be able to use them. That's super important. Number 8, accounting is numbers, but behind those numbers are principles which you need to understand. So understand the underlying principles behind the calculations, behind how your theory question. Just know the principle, and be able to apply it. If you understand the principle, even if you are asked this transaction that you have never seen before, you will be able to understand it because you know the core principles behind that topic, right? Tip number 9, create summaries, create cheat sheets that you can quickly browse through before you practice or before your exam. And if you feel like, I feel like with my cheat sheets, whenever there's something that I feel like I tend to forget a lot, I'll write it down, and then before the exam I go through my cheat sheet, and then I remember, oh, whenever I have this I need to also include this, and then I just go to the exam and write and get my A. Last one for the day is it's okay for you to get extra help. So if you feel like you need a tutor, you feel like you need to attend extra classes for accounting and your school is not offering those, it's okay. I wish someone told me earlier that it's okay for you to go get help somewhere else. I've been struggling with a certain concept in mathematics. My teacher was a very good teacher, by the way. Sometimes you just need someone else to explain that something for you to just grasp the concept. So if you feel like you need extra help, it's okay for you to get a tutor. It's okay for you to go attend extra classes at a different school. It's definitely okay. Some people talk about how confusing it can be, and it makes sense. Sometimes you can be confused, especially if you move from a classroom where you're using timelines to calculate, and then now suddenly you have to now use your fingers to calculate because you've been told by someone who's different. But I think trying out a different teacher or a different tutor can be worth it, can be very worth it, especially when you know what you are struggling with, even if you don't. But sometimes you just need that one person who's going to simplify something for you. With that being said, please check out our academic evolution page on TikTok. We do offer high school tutoring for a variety of subjects, so just check our account. Their numbers there. If you need tutoring, contact our tutoring manager. So we'll regularly be posting our schedules for each and every month. Currently we're busy with January sessions, and then we are later gonna post before February. We're gonna post our schedule for February. You are more than welcome to get one-on-one sessions. They're also acceptable for you. So if you need extra help, you need a holding hand, we are here for you. All right, thank you so much for watching. Please do not forget to give this video a thumbs up, comment anything in the video. It can be your favorite part of the video, emoji, you are more than welcome to send your video request. So if there's any video that you'd like to see on our channel, then let me know in the comment section, and share this video with anyone who's studying accounting. Share the channel with any high school student, because this is going to be a very useful channel for them. And last importantly, subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. See you in our next video. Bye.